the last video, I finished putting up all the arches for my new bow roof shed. Now that was a big accomplishment, but the frame is not done yet. In order for the frame to be stable, I have to add lots of horizontal and diagonal bracing. In order to do that, I'll use the same thin strapping I used to construct the arches. Let me state the obvious. This shed is a ton of work to finish. There are literally hundreds of bolts and screws that go in to making this thing stable so that it will last for more than 5 minutes. And it's got me reflecting on the pros and cons of building, of taking the time to build something like this. And to me, the cons are pretty straightforward. It's certainly a time sink, and so the time I'm spending doing this, I could be spending doing something else. So maybe I'm not spending my time as valuably as I could. Maybe. And it's relatively stressful. I could certainly spend this time doing something that's a little less stressful, something I'm a little better at, something that's not quite as dangerous as this is. I mean, I could just pay somebody to do this work. I really don't have to be doing what I'm doing. So what's the point of doing it? What am I getting out of it? First, I'll say that I feel like I'm getting way more out of it than it's costing me. The first big one is just a big feeling of connection. Think back to how many screws and bolts I said it takes to put this thing together. Every one of those is a moment that I put more into the building of me. And I mean, really, it's like I'm building a relationship with it. I feel a certain way about this shed as I'm putting it up. And it's a way that I feel about it that is fundamentally different than my cell phone that I bought. And I know from experience that this kind of way of feeling about it is probably going to last a long time. I mean, for as long as I'm around it, for sure, and maybe even longer. It's as if all of the stress and time and difficulty of putting something together gets saved up, and when it's done, that investment gets poured back out in this feeling of warmth that just seems to go on and on. Another thing that happens for me when I build things is I think it pumps up my gratitude for how many amazing things I have in my life. I think that's simply a function of getting really grounded in how difficult it is to accomplish so many things in the world. And then when I buy something, I can kind of, at a better way, intuit how much challenge went into that particular thing that I'm just paying money for. And I feel more gratitude for it. I think maybe my favorite thing I get out of building, though, is how much it counteracts what I would call a sense of unpleasant mystery with the modern world. It just seems like there's so many things we depend on that I don't understand how they work. And that, I like certain kinds of mystery, but that particular kind is a little stressful for me. And what happens when I build something is it starts as more of a mystery, and then I get into the grind of doing it, and it kind of reveals itself as not that mysterious at all. It's just one step after another, and eventually you get this complex thing that was a mystery at the start, but now I completely understand. And the cool thing is that sort of confidence that I get from going on that journey kind of translates into the rest of my life. So if I run into something that has that kind of sense of unpleasant mystery, I can now sense into it a little more and go, oh, like if I just put in the time, it wouldn't be a mystery. I would understand that I could master it. And so it just kind of overall lowers that sense for me. Not to mention, it gives me much more of a sense of competence in my life. And not just for the thing that I mastered, but more generally too. The main portion of the bow roof shed construction is now complete. After I added the horizontal and diagonal braces, the shed feels nice and sturdy. I was even able to climb on it without fear of it collapsing. It's pretty cool. Now the framing's not fully complete yet. I still have to frame up the ends of the shed. The instructions I bought were not terribly clear about exactly how to do that. So I ended up doing my own set of drawings for the framing there, and I think it's going to work out okay. While I would love to start that tomorrow, nature unfortunately has other plans for me. It's been kind of warm the last few days and the ground's actually thawed. The end pieces of the shed do require that I drive some more stakes into the ground. So if I really want to get this shed done before the snow flies, I got to get these stakes in the ground before the ground freezes again. So I'm going to keep going. frame for the bow roof shed is now complete. I'm a classic underestimator of how long it takes to finish a project, and this one's been no exception. It took way longer than I thought it was going to. The bow roof shed has a ton of joints, and they all have to be secured by both screws and bolts. I'm getting this done just in the nick of time. In about 3 days, the first big snow is coming to western Maine, and I really want to have the cover on this shed and my stuff in there before that happens.